right, we're here with Quincy Carter. God, it's great to finally connect with you, Quincy, and reading about your story from afar and how open, how transparent you've really been on kind of the different rock bottoms you've went through, how you climbed out. I just feel like you're saving lives by being open like this and having conversations like this. So thanks so much for sharing it with Go Long.
Oh man, thanks a lot, man. Thanks for having me.
I guess where does it start, Quincy? I mean, I think a lot of people out there still probably remember you as star at Georgia, right? High pick, second round, Dallas Cowboys. Jerry Jones wants you. You're going to replace Troy Aikman. You went to the playoffs. You went 10-6. You had success, and then poof. Football wise, people just didn't hear from you. They don't know what happened. So, take us on the rise first, the good times from college to the pros.
Yeah. Well, heck, I'm gonna back you up a little bit into high school. Man, I had a great time, man, as a kid growing up in Decatur, Georgia, man. With all the athletes I was growing up around, Atlanta was starting to really cultivate into being one of the major cities in the country. We got the Olympics in '96. And then also, winning the state championship, in 1995, man, my senior year in high school. So, man, those are some great times. College, going to the University of Georgia. Well, heck, I'm skipping over baseball a little bit because I got drafted in baseball.
The
Played a
Cubs.
little baseball. Yeah. But yeah, man, college was great. Going to the University of Georgia is a blessing in itself with all our rich tradition. But then being blessed enough, to take my talents to the NFL, man, was just such a blessing. It really was.
What's going through your mind when the Dallas Cowboys draft you to be the heir apparent to a Hall of Famer? I mean, really, that you were that guy. That they got around to it finally after Troy Aikman. He has a concussion. He leaves the league. I mean, Quincy Carter is going to be the face of the Dallas Cowboys.
Yeah. Well, something, before I broke my hand in college, honestly, it was a couple names being mentioned, and I was one of them, with, the likes of Drew Brees and Michael Vick. And this was right before I broke my hand, and in my junior year. So I had to fight my butt off after breaking my hand. Some marijuana rumors out there about me being a leader and kind of things like that. I was fighting throughout the draft process. I had to really come in and prove myself. So honestly, it was spoiled a little bit because I found out before the draft, a couple of days before the draft, that actually the Cowboys were going to be drafting me. So I knew firsthand who was going to be drafting me anyway. So I didn't get too much of a surprise because my agent pretty much told me, hey, if certain teams skip over, that's who's going to come and get you. And then the Cowboys was going to jump up no matter what if they got wind of somebody, picking you. So that was spoiled in itself a little bit. But so I say all that to say this, man, I didn't care who drafted me. Now I was blessed, that the Cowboys did, but I wanted to go prove that I can play in the NFL because, you hear some of the naysayers out there. You try to block it out as much as you can, but, I heard some things. So it didn't matter, honestly, who I got drafted by, but I was blessed enough to put a star in my helmet, man. I'm forever grateful for it, though.
53rd overall in the 2001 draft. And I want to say it was maybe the preseason. They were using you in the option a little bit, and people didn't know what to make of it, right? It's like the Cowboys are idiots. Why would they do this with a quarterback? Now we see RPOs in like every offense. So you're probably watching today's football like, oh, what the heck, man? We were trying some of this stuff back then.
Yeah, well, honestly, man, the Cowboys was actually, Jack Riley was using me as best as he could so he can slow my maturation process down a little bit, and then I can continue to grow. So the things that I kind of felt comfortable in, we talked about it. It wasn't a whole bunch of reading over the middle. at first early on, but anything one-on-one outside, comebacks and curls and, things of that nature, I was real comfortable with. So we were just trying to do things that I was comfortable with. But yeah, that read option, well, I do think about that some days though. Although now it's not a big hit in the NFL. It really is not, because of the athletes, getting sideline to sideline, the hash marks are shrink, so you don't get to spread out defenses as much as you can. So it's not a big, it's not a big winner in the NFL. You get your guys every, 4 or 5 years who can do it, like your Lamar Jacksons, your Robert Griffins, people sprinkling in, but you can't make a whole offense out of it.
That's a good point. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
not the basis for what quarterbacks can really do to play in and play out. But by year 3, Bill Parcells is the coach, and you go 10-6. I want to say you threw for 3,000 yards, 17 touchdowns, ran a little bit. You make the playoffs. Things are good at that point, right? I mean, you're turning a corner.
Mm-hmm. Turning a big corner. We had a great year. And our defense played their ass off too. I know a lot of people give me credit, for being a playoff quarterback, which I was, but I played around some dang good defensive players too, and had some great teammates on offense too. But yeah, man, I ended up failing the test going into this 4th year in the drug program. And, man, when I look back on it, now, I started a habit at 16, 17 years old, smoking weed, that followed me until I was 26, 27 years old. And then when it was time to stop, I didn't have that control to stop, because I've been doing things the way Quincy wanted to do it all his life. And so I started depending on it, and I started being able to take the edge off of the pressure, or I don't even know if you want to call it pressure, but, to a sense, you almost have to, or else why would you be doing this? And one of them was taking that edge off. The second one is, hey, I had a problem at 26, 27 years old. It got worse, after football. And when the thing that I love, really hurt me to get cut like that. So yeah, man, so the wheels really starting to fall off. I went to the Jets for a year. Then the wheels really started to fall off after I didn't get signed. And that same, I don't know if it was an addiction at 16 and 17, but hell, it became one at 27, 28, 29, full-fledged, and it followed me. And things just continued to get worse, the arrest, and man, I tell people, man, if you even think you got a problem, man, you got to get you some help. But not only get you some help, you got to be willing to go through this process again, through the 12 steps, and really living a life of recovery. If I really lived and wanted, if I really tried to live a life of recovery back at 27, 28, when I knew I had a problem, but I didn't want to admit it, my whole life story would be a whole nother story. But I took myself through that pain and that misery, thinking, I can still cope and, do some of the things that not even possible to do, and to try to have the life that I was trying to have, but I didn't really have actually that defense. And that defense is these 12 steps, a higher power, which is God for me, and really working this recovery. And so since I wasn't really, I was in and out of rehab, but I wasn't working a life of recovery. And so I wasn't getting the results.
Yeah.
And that's the bottom line. Yeah.
Was it strictly marijuana, alcohol, other drugs? What kind of did it entail, the addiction?
I graduated to cocaine. I did. But it started with just weed, a little bit of drinking, because I didn't like to drink. But once I got cut, some pills got mixed into that addiction a little bit, the weed, the alcohol. And yeah, I graduated to cocaine eventually.
What does a day-to-day life look like for you then, Quincy, when you were at your worst with it all? How much are you using? What what's the feeling like when you're just kind of toiling in this existence?
Let's just say it was purely hell. You know, um, I don't go into bragging about the downs or whatever because everybody's got their story. But it was I put it like this: it was a chase for my serenity, and my serenity sometimes involved in me being stoned just to get by. Because when I wasn't, I was miserable because I did not have the tools or was not really going through recovery to really feel my spirit, all right, and live that life where I know things are going to be okay. Get into a meeting, calling a sponsor, going and helping somebody else, getting outside yourself and helping somebody else, all right? I wasn't using those tools and really entrenched in the recovery. So there were times that my peace and serenity, sadly to say, when just so I can goddamn not go crazy all the way, all right, was through drugs and alcohol. Yeah, absolutely.
It just gets you through the day. I mean, you need it in your head. You need it to survive.
To survive, you dang so right. You dang so right.
Did you know that it was doing you extreme harm, like in the moment? Like, did that hit you at any time? And this is your late 20s, right?
Yeah, late 20s, hell, all the way into my 30s. In and out of the program, going to rehab, getting, I would call it, getting fixed up, letting God dust the dust up off me and get me back on my feet. And then I want to go back off and do it Quincy way. Yeah, but I was only able to see that when I went through rehab. But then when I started going to rehab, it's like, whoa, okay, now I got to do the hard work, all right, to get through some of this pain. And I avoided that pain. I avoided looking at who was the real reason of me failing that test and then getting cut. And now I'm ended up in New York and it's 20 degrees, 20, 30 degrees in September and snowing in September. I was the reason of that. I was the reason of why I was broke. I was the reason of why my relationships with my kids was dwindling, out of control. And if it even was a relationship with my kids, and I didn't want to face that hard pain. And so the results of it was medicating myself with drugs and alcohol. Yeah.
Which has to feed a depression, right? I mean, you're watching football too. You're thinking I should be out there in addition to this
Absolutely.
all.
Yeah, absolutely. And it all feeds hand in hand with each other. And then, especially on top of the head injuries that you've already suffered, and then you're not, on your medicine the right way you should be, then, man, listen, you're just in a whirlwind of just disaster.
Several arrests too that you mentioned. I mean, you mix
Absolutely.
that in. That's so we've had Ryan Leaf on here, Alex Green, several former players that have kind of dealt with various drug issues, addiction issues, and I feel like it always kind of comes back to one common theme of I had to look in the mirror, like
Yeah.
and say I have a problem. It's my ass. I gotta figure shit out, and like just really hard conversations with yourself. When did you? I guess I'm guessing you probably had a moment like that. I would have put words in your mouth, but like, what was that one final rock bottom for you that was like, okay, I got to get it together, and how did you start turning it around?
I've had a couple, man, sadly to say, but this last one, I'm in an extended stay hotel. It's July 2019, man. Me and my ex-girlfriend, we got into another just crazy fight after a crazy night. Of just partying, man. And when I say fight, not physical fight, but argument, and then yeah, man, that morning, I got on my knees, man. I was crying my balls off and I got on my knees. Did I just say that? I got on my knees. Oh my God. I'm sorry to anybody I offended, but I got on my knees, man. And I asked God, man, to just take complete control of my life. And then the next thing that happened, I was on the phone with Hollywood Henderson, man, and Hollywood called a good friend of his, Marcia Stone, up here in this office that I'm working in right now. And he called her, and I came to BRC. They were down there in the valley in Weslaco, Texas, to pick me up at BRC within 6 hours. So yeah, that was that moment where only thing I could do is just cry out to God and ask me. And then my next thoughts, which I know God placed into me, hey, you need to call Hollywood and go get you some help, man. And I hadn't turned back since. I've committed to, and just like you just said, to looking deep inside myself. One of the things, I had to really do, man, is I had to really work these steps. And I had to get through a hard step forward, getting these resentments out. I had to go through steps 8 and 9 where we're making amends. But then more importantly, number one, I had to admit, that I was powerless, over this thing, man. And then, hey, 2 and 3, asking God to bring you to sanity. And then in 3, now you're letting God just completely have, your will. And it could be, don't let me scare you with the God thing for anybody listening. It's a higher power of your understanding. But for me, it's God, and then in step 5, actually, the step 4 where we get our resentments in and everything. Step 5 now, we go ahead and tell another person everything we've been going through. And then now they sit back and listen and look at everything that they've, been presented to them. And then they jot down some character defects of what they've seen and what they heard. But anyway, I can go on and on all the way to 6 through 12. But if you don't do this hard work, man, and you don't go through this pain that you're gonna have to go through, then you're not gonna get no results. And I don't sugarcoat it at all.
And Ryan and Alex have both said like there were times where they could have been close to death, if they were on this trek, and and they just kept going down this path. Do you think that you were headed down a similarly dark path if you were to stay where you were going?
Oh, absolutely, because my depression, kept getting worse and worse. And I've alluded to it before, but sometimes drugs and doing drugs was the best thing for me to get out of my depression during that day. Now you're making it worse ultimately, but hell, just to goddamn move your feet somewhat, boy, hell, have a drink or do some coke, just to goddamn move yourself around, man. So that's how bad it was.
Because like you said, it was getting you through the day. So you went through these steps, you got better. How do you kind of get through the day then today? What are you doing now for people who don't know? And how do you kind of fill that void that you used to fill with drugs?
Yeah, well, my morning starts by getting up, praying. I've got a morning routine. I'll meditate. If I can't get my meditation in, I make sure I'm reading something, and I read, the daily word. Actually, what my mom's been giving me shit, since I've been 12 years old. And so I read my daily word, and, there's a one a day, kind of passage that you read through AA, then, NA actually. I'm an AA guy, but I read, it's kind of like a one-a-day scripture deal with NA too. So I'm just really fixing my spirit. I go to about 3 or 4 meetings a week, depending on my schedule. And I just live a life of recovery, man. I, block them 30 minutes out in the morning, and it's not like a full-time job. And then I go on with my day. I got 3 or 4 guys that, that I sponsor. I don't run them down because I know if I'm trying to run them down, they don't want it as bad as me. Do different situations fit itself? Well, I make myself available to call them. I will. But I got to make sure you want it too. So I sponsor some guys, man. And, man, whatever God has for me that day, if, me and you were kind of late on the air today because some things going on here at the job. So man, whatever God puts in front of me, I got my spirit right for it, just to deal with life, and ultimately, man, Tyler, what this thing has been about too at the same time is I didn't know how properly to deal with life. And that's been for a long time. And now it always hadn't been alcohol and drugs. But what about that coach I gave attitude to? What about that teacher? I had some choice words for. Then I started replacing it with the marijuana. So these behaviors start at a young age. They really do. And they carry on with you. And then it's things that gets in your way that you replace with that attitude or something. You know what I mean? So if that makes sense. So yeah, man. So I just live this thing, Tyler, man. It's not a full-time job, but my spirit's ready for anything that, life is gonna bring on a daily basis.
The pressures of the league can just exasperate this all too. I mean, I can't
Hey,
imagine you've got millions upon millions of people watching you, rooting for you, booing you. In
yeah,
your case, probably worse than booze after a while, and you've got to deal with all that in a certain
yeah.
way. And I mean, you probably have talked to so many former players that have gone through similar things, right? This might be a bigger issue than anybody even realizes.
Oh, absolutely. But now, in saying that, we know what we signed up for. Now it's going about the proper way of channeling some of this energy and how you can put yourself in positions to make good decisions. Financial literacy, how you can implement your life, how you can conduct your business with your money, family relationships, there's courses and seminars, the NFL symposium before we get in the NFL, but it's also listening to this information to help you. It's not overwhelming if you're doing the proper things and you're fixing your spirit right and you're listening and you letting people help you. You can overcome all them pressures of the NFL.
Love
Yep.
it, Quincy. Man, this has been great. I know you got to run, but like your kids' relationships good there too. I know you got several, right? And you're probably
Yes.
fortifying those relationships through this all as well.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Everything is getting better.
Great.
But the only reason why is because I'm working this program. I'm living a life of recovery. And like they say, more will be revealed, and it just keeps getting better. And I'm a recipient of that, man. So I'm gonna keep marching.
Awesome. Got that. Thanks so much for making time for us. I know you're on the go. You're changing lives, helping lives, and God, we really appreciate you sharing your story with us, Quincy. Great to see you, man.
Hey, thank you, buddy. Thanks for having me, Tyler.
You got it. Let's stay in touch. We're always free here, so anytime you want to pop on and share something, just let me know.
Okay, buddy. Let's stay in touch, man.
Great. Thanks so much.
All right, thank you.